as you sing, for you, you have a God experience, and then we have one. We're here to have a God experience together. Lynn and I last Sunday spent our day with our spiritual meditation group that we've been in for 18 years. We had a retreat with these people that we have traveled with and lived around and been around for so long. For 18 years we've shared this experience of God with our spiritual community. And just take a moment to settle in. Just to settle in. Boy, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I don't know how to say this. Probably the saddest thing that I've experienced in ministry is when people have come and not used or taken in the teachings in a constructive way to make a difference in their lives. Why are we here? Why are we here? We had so many experiences, God experiences, but they are only valuable to the extent that we put them to work, that we use them to make a difference in our lives, that we take them in and we put them into practice. As Lynn says, does your soul mean as much to you as your teeth? You spend 5 to 10 minutes a day flossing and brushing. Are you willing to take that time? The energy and the vibration that is here present within you and in this room will move you if you'll set down your preconceptions. When I said that a God experience is bigger than God, what I mean is that you can't put God in your box labeled God. You can't put the experience of God into any preconceptions. But you know what keeps us from making any moves? Fear. Because if we move out of this God box, well, we might have something unexpected happen. And what could happen? A God experience. I came here this morning to have a God experience. Together, I came here this morning to have a God experience. And I'm going to have a God experience. Together. And I'm going to have a God experience. Because I am a God experience. Together. Because I am a God experience. It isn't like, the thing that's scary is that something outside of me is going to come in and it's going to do something to me. But it's who you are inside that's going to do something to you. It's already in there. Okay, here's some nerd talk. Jesus said, pray like this, go into your closet and close the door. And the closet that he spoke of was the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem, a small room that had the Ark of the Covenant. Remember Raiders of the Lost Ark? Where you open it up and you get vaporized? They believed there was so much energy and so much power in that room that only the high priest, which was a different person every year, could go into that room. Nobody else could go in there, but everybody's house was built exactly like the temple in Jerusalem. If you were middle class or higher, you would build a house and you'd have a little room in the middle with no windows. It was called a closet. And you would go into the closet and do what? Close the door, pray, and meditate. And there was no show. There was nobody out there. There was nobody going to look at you. There was nobody going to do. It's you and what? Well, you could say you and God, but you and that which is already inside of you. That inner experience of God is waiting for you. It's calling you. But you got to go into the closet and close the door. Okay, so this is all about having a God experience, which is to realize that there is a Holy of Holies, not just in the temple of Jerusalem. There's a closet, not just in the house, but there's the center of you. And where is it? Right here. I want you to put your hand right there. Holy of Holies, right there. The Raiders of the Lost Ark is right there. What happens if you open it up? You could be vaporized? Ooh, that's the sphere that tells you that. But what'll happen? You get moved off of it. You'll get moved off of that familiar place and you'll move into a new place. And that new place is not going to take prisoners. That new place isn't going to negotiate with you. That new place that you're going to be moved to is going to move you and you can't get unmoved. You're not going to be able to look back. You know, you put your hand to the plow, you can't turn back. You got to just keep moving. You can't get it back together and you won't seem to have it together all the time either. When you pray, Jesus said, don't be like play actors, hypocrites, but it meant actor in a play. They love to stand and pray in the synagogues on the street corners so people can see them at it. Believe me, they're already getting all the reward that they're ever going to get. But when you pray, go into your closet, shut your door, pray to God privately, and God, who sees all private things, will reward you. And then when you pray, don't rattle off a bunch of long words like those superstitious people who think they'll be heard because they use all those words. Don't be like them. After all, God knows your needs before you ask God, so pray like this. And then he gives the Lord's Prayer. And it is not only a template for prayer, it shows you all the elements of prayer that work, and it leads you into a meditative experience, but it is a tool for prayer that you can use. Remember, Wayne Dyer wrote a whole book about the first 10 words of the Lord's Prayer and said, you can take that for a half hour and just use that as your meditative experience. But get into the gap between the words. The gap between the words. The space within it. You know, I've shared before that when you go to a Mormon church, they don't pray the Lord's Prayer as a group because they say Jesus didn't say to pray this prayer. Jesus said to pray like this. And they have a point. Because it wasn't just meant that we're just supposed to do rote prayers, but we also can use this not just as a template, but as a tool and move ourselves into a deeper experience of God. And what is this? Wow. Well, first of all, understand that prayer in Jesus' day was a matter of rote repetition and long words. They had 3 times a day they prayed. 9, noon, and 3. They had 6 sets of prayers, 2 sets of 6 prayers that they would alternate between, and they were very long and very wordy and very long-winded, and rabbis had written them and you had to use them. And Jesus said, throw it out the window. I'm cutting it down to 6 affirmative prayer statements in the present tense, in the now moment, and it's not beseeching God or asking God. It is saying, give us this day our daily bread. Not, please, if I'm good, will you give us this day our daily bread? And it's not about I, me, mine. It's about our, we, us. It's collective. And it's about the highest good for all concerned. And the first 3 are about a relationship with the divine. And the last 3 are about a relationship with ourselves, life, our neighbor. Love God, love your neighbor. And it's all in there. It's all in there. This is your desert island prayer. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean Alla Falva. It starts off with Abba, which is a Swedish band, I know, but they got the name somewhere. And it's Abba means Dada. It's baby talk. It's baby talk. So what is he saying? He says, I want to just curl up in trust like a baby. I want to have, and have you ever felt more love than when you're holding a baby? From the baby to the baby? You and the baby are one. I and God are one. Abba, Abba. In heaven? Which art in heaven? He didn't speak Elizabethan English. He was talking the language of the people. And he used some very strong terms. Heaven means, the same word as heaven is sky. It means higher power. Lift it up. Lift up. Heaven is that higher power which is where? You know, Pope John Paul II, who was a theological conservative, said there is no place you go when you die called heaven any more than there's heaven here. It's all a state of consciousness. My gosh, if he can say it, wow. We can accept it. You know, people are having a hard time focusing on this because I'm pushing this morning. So I want you to strap in. I want everybody to go and get your seatbelts on, strap in, and don't do anything else. I know you're going to want to do something else, but just strap in and focus, because this is about the most important thing there is in the universe, which is a God experience. A God experience, which will move you. And it's a God that you came in, I want a God experience as healing. I want a God experience as harmony. I want a God experience as feeling a little better today. Thank you very much. I want a God experience as prosperity. I want a God experience. But what you really want is a God experience. What I really want is a God experience. Together? What I really want is a God experience. So how do you get a God experience? He starts off telling you how not to get a God experience, which is to give a rip what anybody else thinks. He said, don't do your good deeds conspicuously to catch anyone else's eyes, or you're going to miss the reward of your heavenly Father. When you do good, don't hire a trumpeter to go out in front of you like those play actors in the synagogues. Those people in the streets that make sure that the men admire them. And believe me, they've got all the reward that they're ever going to get. No, when you give, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Your Father knows all secrets, will reward you. Okay, this is about, I want to take a spiritual step in order to be recognized by other people as spiritual. I want to be spiritual. I want people to know and give me the feedback that I'm spiritual. Reminds me of a joke. Get ready. The minister. Okay, there was a couple that, it's a minister joke. There were a couple that died just before they were going to get married, and they said to St. Peter, you know, we couldn't get around to doing this before we died, and could you marry us? And he said, I'll come to you, I'll get you as soon as the arrangements are ready. 10 years passed. The minister shows up, he brings the people in, they do the wedding, it's wonderful, but it doesn't work out. 3 years later, the same couple goes to St. Peter and says, it didn't work out, I'm sorry, we want a divorce. Could you get us a divorce? And he said, well, I will come get you when the arrangements are ready. He said, well, wait a minute. When we asked to be married, it took 10 years before you did it. He said, yeah, it took me 10 years before there was a minister up here. How long is it going to take before I get a lawyer? So, and by the way, are there people in your world, are there people in your life that feel that you've gotten off their path, off their track of religion, or whatever the thing is? Are you laying on yourself a perfectionist thing that, I want everybody to think this, or I want everybody to think that, and keep yourself in a box so you can't let yourself express the who that you are, the you that you are, the spiritual self that you are, because you're so stuck in your head, worrying about what are people going to think, that you can't get out of it. Move out of that. Move off that position. You can decide to do it. And he gives you the technique for doing it. And it's just 3 affirmations about your relationship with God, which is truly your relationship with the I am that I am in you. And 3 affirmations about your relationship with yourself, your world, your life, your neighbor. So, our Father is Abba, which art in heaven, which is our higher power. Our higher power. Hallowed be thy name. Thy name, the name of God is what? Naman is Sanskrit. That's where name came from. And it means to know. It's knowing God. When I have an experience of God, it's hallowed. And I'm not talking about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. What's hallowed? Halloween's coming up. But hallow, what does that mean? It means whole. Whole. Holy, but holy means whole, complete. It also means hale and hearty. It means whole. And so I experience wholeness to the extent that I have a God experience. How do you get a God experience? By taking the time to focus on it. To focus on it. To make a decision and insert a cause in space and time. How do you insert a cause? Through your desire and through your practice. You got to want it, and you got to do something to back up that wanting. As Lynn said, again, 5 to 10 minutes a day flossing and brushing. 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, to do spiritual practices that are consistent. The thing that we've experienced with our group that we've worked with for 18 years is daily practice. And it isn't so much a matter of how much you spend time every day as the consistency every day. Day in, day out, hot, cold, light, snow, sun, good, bad, whatever, and you just keep at it. You just keep at it because you're inserting causes. You're inserting causes. Everything you experience in your life right now was as a result of causes that you inserted as a soul as you evolved through many lifetimes of experience. Sorry about that, but that's what I think. And you've been inserting these causes. And what causes are you inserting now? You're inserting them every day through your desires, through your practices, through what you're doing. What are you doing? Oh, and why are we here as a church? We're here to have a shared experience of God, to facilitate an experience of God through music, through words, through prayers, through chaplains praying with you, through just having a cup of coffee with somebody, being present, being in love with life. So, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. What's the kingdom? The kingdom of God. It's within you. It's at hand. It's a shared experience. He said all those things. It's among you. But what is that kingdom? Well, the people in his day, they were like, thank God for a kingdom because it's what keeps us from having chaos. It's divine order. It's that which brings order out of chaos. It brings things, gives meaning to things. There's an inner order to things. And you say, oh, I want that heavenly order, that inner order, that God order, which is there in potential to come forth. I want it to come forth. I want divine order to come forth. Together, I want divine order to come forth. And I want it to come forth now. Together, and I want it to come forth now. So feel that divine order coming forth. That's on earth as it is in heaven. Coming forth, outforming, out pushing out into the world. Give us this day our daily bread. The word's manna. Manna, that which Moses and his people woke up in the morning and they'd eat it. It was there. It was only just for one day. It would only last a day. They couldn't store it up. It's one day at a time. It's that one day of a time, now moment, something. Essence, that substance that is there, your spiritual nourishment that shows up as your loaf of bread if you need it, but it's a spiritual bread. It's a spiritual substance. It's a something that if you practice every day, it will show up for you just like it showed up in the morning for the children of Israel every morning. And there it was. And it's there as the effect of the cause of your doing the spiritual work that's yours to do. This world will no longer tolerate staying complacent, stuck, and comfortable. We've got to get off of that and move into a different experience of life. There's nothing sadder than people who have been coming to hear spiritual teachings or studying spiritual teachings, but have never taken and put it into words, never into work into their life, day by day. So take this and put it to work at the level you're at. Insert the causes that will come forth as powerful effects that will move your soul. I feel an urgency this morning. When we were last weekend, we were with the people that we've been meditating with for so many years. It seems so important. The world is calling for this. And they're calling for you to be a messenger of that, not in some grandiose way, not in some way that's going to get you personal recognition, but in a way that you make a difference with the essence and the vibration of your soul that comes out of you in every now moment, touching every single person that you are in contact with. And that means you have to be willing to let God out of your box. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts as we've forgiven our debtors. And the word here in Greek is debts. Sorry, trespassers, but it's really debts. And in Greek, there were 5 words for sin or mistake. One was missing the mark. You've heard that one. Another one is stepping over a line consciously. Another was stepping over a line unconsciously. Another was breaking the law. And the 5th last one was owing a debt. What is that? I don't want to get too woo-woo on you, but it's karma. It's owing a karmic debt. It's a cause and effect. It's that if you've done something negative, it comes back to you negative. You come do something positive, it comes back to you positive. Jesus said, as you sow, so shall you reap. It's sowing. And people think of karma as negative. It's not. It's negative and positive. It's indiscriminate. If you put forth positive causes, you get positive results. Negative causes, negative results. And we've all had negative causes, so what do we do with them? To the extent, and it says in proportion to, forgive us our debts as we've forgiven our debtors, is in proportion to, in Greek. So to the extent that you do that, I had somebody who did some stuff that was not really nice. This is a few years ago, and I was in a situation where I was trying to move some things forward in my life, and it came to me meditation to the extent that you let this person go and let them not approve of it or like it or have them be your best friend, but just let it go and not go around chit-chatting to everybody about the terrible thing that they did, but just let it go. At the measure you use will be used with you. You will get what you need. And to the extent that I did that, I was able to have a positive outcome. You forgive. And how do you forgive? A lot of people struggle with this, but some people, you just pray for them like they're a stranger. That's something. Jesus said, pray for your enemies. Another thing is the 7-step method, which we have right outside of Fellowship Hall. Do your journaling. Do the thing you need to do to forgive the people in your life, not to approve of their behavior, not to agree with them or be their best friend or do anything. It's just let it go so it doesn't impede you, and then the measure you use will be used with you in proportion to forgiving causes forgiveness. And lead us not into temptation. What kind of a God would lead us into temptation? Jesus' brother James did not think God led us into temptation. This is what he said. When you're tempted, never say, God sent me the temptation. God can't be tempted to do anything wrong, and God never tempts anyone. Anyone who's tempted is attracted and seduced by their own wrong desire. So, what is this? Lead us not into temptation? A better translation is, let us not experience unnecessary tests. Temptation meant tests. And the lead us to can be taken in another way, which is, let us not fall into unnecessary tests or traps in life. So basically, help us to learn through inner consciousness rather than hard experience. God does not test us, but we go through tests because we create them. So let us be guided intuitively. Let our intuition be so well honed, so clear, that we can see the pitfall before we get into it and get out of having to go through that unnecessary test. How many times in your life have you gone, oh, remember years ago, attention Kmart shoppers, there's a blue light special. There's a light in aisle 3. Well, there's a light going around saying, look out for this, go around it. And this is that. Lead us not in temptation truly is, let us see the traps before we fall into them. And deliver us from evil. Oh, evil. That's a very unpleasant word, isn't it? Evil. What is that? Well, there are 3 words for evil in Greek. And the first one is the one we think this means. It's maliciousness or malice. That word doesn't show up once in the entire Bible. So that leaves 2 more. One is worthless, and the other is harmful in some way. Worthless. Well, it's not harmful, it's worthless. Worthless. So save us from worthless experiences, worthless situations. So you say, how can evil be worthless? A worthless burden or a worthless experience. I read the interview with the chief exorcist of the Catholic Church in the United States, who said that evil did not exist. This just in. The chief exorcist of the Catholic Church said there is no evil. He said if I believed that it existed, I couldn't do what I do. He said there is no personal devil. There is no, by the way, there's no word in Aramaic, Jesus' language, for that. There is no, she said, so the people say, well, what is it? It is a false belief that people hold, which they have experiences of. So, and I like to use this analogy. I close off all the windows and turn off all the lights, and it's utterly without light in this room. And I say, fire! And you're going to scramble over each other, and people will hurt themselves. And I say, there is no such thing as darkness. You said, but I just hurt myself in the dark when you said fire. But it has appearance, but not reality. Because what is the answer when you have darkness? You turn on the light. And light is something. You can measure light. You measure light by lumens. It is a real thing. But there is no such thing as darkness except for as the absence of light. It has an appearance, it has an experience, but it isn't real, and the answer is to turn on the light. So when your experience, deliver us from evil, basically means turn on the light. That's what it's saying. It's not a power opposed to God. It is the absence of all that's real and true. And so what we do is, through our spiritual practices, through our inserting our positive causes, we experience and insert a cause that creates more light. And if you're experiencing darkness, your job is not to fix it. It's to shine more light. If you're experiencing darkness, your job is not to rail against it. It's to shine more light. Turn on the light. I turn on the light. Together? I turn on the light. And when you turn on the light, wonderful things happen. Now we get to, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Guess what? The earliest manuscripts don't have it in it. He didn't say it. But it's good stuff. Because you could use it. I'm not criticizing it. The kingdom is that divine order that is. It's the fourth dimensional reality of God. It's the now moment. It is the kingdom of heaven is within us, at hand, among us. It is truth. It is light. It is that which we are evolving into. It is. Which has power. And then it's complete in our experience, because glory just means complete. And so that's what we're studying. Now, there's a whole bunch more. And that's why you got to come Tuesday night. Tuesday night we're going to go into the rest of this. It goes into having a single eye. It goes into lilies of the field and birds of the air. It goes into all kinds of other things. It's the most powerful teachings found, I think. And Gandhi made it the center point of his entire philosophy. And the founders of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step movement, this was the center point of their teachings as well, they said, as they're writing the big book. So what is this for you? This is the essence of how to have a God experience. You boil it down, you take it all, you just get down to what's really real and get laser focused. Have a God experience and everything else will work. You know, every year my mom works on an aircraft carrier as a docent. She's 91 years old and she leads people on tours. It's the USS Hornet, and every year they have the celebration of the first moon landing because they picked up the astronauts. So Buzz Aldrin comes and he whatever, and he talks about how people tell him all the time that he never went to the moon. He actually punched out a guy in Los Angeles because he told him that. I'm not suggesting that when people tell you you have not had your God experience that you punch them out. Although it may be tempting. But instead, realize you can't argue with an experience. You can't take that away from him. He's been there. He's done that. He's experienced it. Taste the experience, the God experience. Be willing to spend enough time on God as you do on your teeth and have that experience. You say, but it's not for me. It's for those mystics. You are a mystic. It's for those spiritual people. Oh, it's for you, Greg. We pay you to do that, and then you tell us about it. No. It's an inner experience. It's an inner experience in you. You are the God experience. I am the God experience. Together? I am the God experience. So just close your eyes. I'm going to do this Lord's Prayer thing again. So just kind of get into the vibration of it, the energy of it. Oh, Abba. Abba. Our higher power, we just curl up in your arms like a baby. We're trusting. Knowing you, having a God experience heals us. Let your divine order come forth in everything in our world so that the higher power expresses here on earth so the outer and the inner become one. Give us our spiritual food each day. Feed us spiritually. And let us experience forgiveness in proportion to how we forgive others. Keep us from unnecessary mistakes and tests. Deliver us from negative consequences. Thank you, God, for the God experience that we seek. We are willing each day to insert the cause that will lead us to an experience of God. Thank you, God, and so it is. Take a deep breath in and let it out, and set aside all the papers in your hands. You don't need them. Take another deep breath and let it out, and open up to a God experience. Bigger than God, bigger than your idea of God. bigger than what people have taught you about God. Let go of whatever's in your hand and open up to an experience of God in this now moment. You can do this. You're capable of it. You have within you that I am that I am. That God experience is the I am in you. If you came into this room needing a healing or a desire for peace of mind or satisfaction, guidance, harmony, whatever that is, I am that I am is in you. That holy experience of God is inside you, waiting. As Jesus said, come into the closet and close the door. It's that heart of hearts within you, and it's waiting for you. It is the Holy of Holies in you. It contains the essence of everything that you are to become. God, I came here this morning for a God experience, and I'm going to have it at the level that I'm at. And Jesus shared with us how to have a God experience. And in the words of the Lord's Prayer is the key, the template, the tool that we can use to open up to a God experience. If you strip it down, he said, this then is how you should pray. O divine Father, I rest in your arms. We rest in your arms like we are babies, trusting and knowing you makes us whole. Let your higher order come forth for the highest good of everyone. Let the inner and the outer become one. Let your divine order outform in our world and feed us spiritually each day. Let us be forgiven in proportion to how much we've forgiven others. Save us from unnecessary mistakes. When we do experience negativity, keep us from being caught up in it. Move us out of it. God, I want an inner experience to outform in my life. I want to know experience this. Just open up my heart now to my God experience. God, lift us out of complacency. Lift us out of the familiar and the comfortable into a God experience that answers our every need, that fulfills every higher desire of the soul, that meets every need and moves out into this world as an impactful wave of divinely ordered energy and vibration. We are the messengers of this higher energy. The God experience that we have is our gift to the world. Thank you, God. And so it is. Let's take our offerings now, and I give from the abundance that I am, and I receive abundantly. Together, I give from the abundance that I am, and I receive abundantly. And silently. And again aloud together. I give from the abundance that I am, and I receive abundantly. And so it is. Amen.